tonight, some of Dunedin's letterboxes are on the move. We check out an influx of giant-sized bugs and meet the new young star of Otago Rugby. Good evening. A number of people in Dunedin who live in the flat areas of the city are being asked to re-site their letterboxes. The reason? New Zealand Post has introduced mail delivery by bicycle. It's something Invercargill is used to, but as Jim Moore reports in Dunedin, the changeover isn't without its teething troubles.
Dunedin has some highly unusual letterboxes. Frigid air mail boxes adorn the student quarter. Beer crates are common. There's even an old black and white television set to add a bit of colour in Castle Street. Number 13. Unlucky for the inhabitants of this building, who'll have to re-site their boxes next to the footpath. New Zealand Post is bringing 8 bicycles onto its deliveries in the flat parts of town. It'll mean deliveries are faster and fewer posties will be needed, though no one's being fired. To avoid the posties getting off their bikes about having to get off their bikes, New Zealand Post has sent out letters like this to those people who need to re-site their boxes. Boxes like this one, for example. Some people, particularly old folk who can't manage to re-site or who can't afford a new box where one's needed, have complained. New Zealand Post says it wants to talk to these people rather than wave a big stick at them.
We're not playing Big Brother in this, and we're not trying to impose ourselves upon them in any way whatsoever. We're seeking assistance. We're quite happy to talk with these people, and if a deferment in their case is justified, then we'll discuss it with them.
There shouldn't be much of a problem for most people making the transition, but the odd few who've talked to us or phoned radio talkback refusing to re-site will face an interesting legal wrangle if they do decide to dig their heels in. You can't be made to move a mailbox, but New Zealand Post can ultimately refuse to deliver mail to you. On the other hand, once someone sends you a letter with a stamp on it, that may well constitute a contract between them and New Zealand Post for the letter to be delivered. The new corporation's anxious for matters not to get that far, however.
We might be able to tolerate the odd hiccup, but we would like to talk about it rather than be anonymous in writing letters or whatever.
In the meantime, the posties themselves welcome the change.
Yeah, I find that be a lot easier. Better get my run finished quick.
Dunedin's 2 commercial radio stations, 4ZB and 4XO, have both applied to the Broadcasting Tribunal for warrants to broadcast in FM stereo. They're 2 of 5 applications affecting Dunedin and Queenstown. The Christchurch-based Christian station, Radio Rima, wants to relay its AM broadcasts to Dunedin. And in Queenstown, Radio Otago and another private company both want to set up FM stations. The warrant applications closed this week, and so far there's no date set for hearings. If bugs make your hair stand on end, keep away from the Otago Museum for the next fortnight. A couple of 100 insect enthusiasts from all over the region have sent in their contributions to the Build a Bug competition. And as Lee Davies discovered, they range from the realistic to the fantastic.
When Museum Director Richard Castle set up the competition, he was thinking in terms of maybe 50 entries. The 250 bugs which arrived came as a bit of a surprise. The standard of the entries has also been overwhelming, and judges Marshall Seifert and John Leader have spent some thoughtful hours making their preliminary selections.
One high school out in Tyree, which did a series of exhibitions that are really outstanding. There's an access group in Oamaru that went completely over the top.
Particularly liked the wetters and the flies, which I think were really brilliantly done. A joy to see. The accurate ones, which are the ones I'm more concerned with judging, really have required very careful observation and an attempt to duplicate this, and I think it's very commendable that they've done this so well.
The competition's being held to celebrate the opening of the museum's new insect displays and to encourage their use as a source of inspiration to artists and craftspeople. It's hoped to stage another competition next year. For those who like to plan ahead, one of the suggested subjects is Build a Bag.
Aren't they good? The competition's being judged tonight and the winners will be announced tomorrow afternoon. A Melbourne company has the go-ahead to buy half the Cardrona ski field. At a meeting in Dunedin today, Cardrona shareholders agreed to sell to Veal Securities and Finances of Melbourne. A spokesman for Cardrona says skiers won't be affected by the change of ownership. The Australian company has an option to buy the remaining 50% at the end of next year, which would make Cardrona the only foreign-owned field in the country. Two plays, one written by former patients and the others by staff at Cherry Farm Hospital, will be presented in Dunedin over the next couple of nights. Called Passing Through and Acting Out, they're being produced under the auspices of the Cherry Farm Creative Arts Trust. Bernard Buck's been at rehearsals.
Tonight is a dress rehearsal, which means I'll be standing at the back and not saying anything. And I really like it if everybody else did pretty much the same thing, like get on with your jobs. I'll sit back, I might take notes or I might not.
Last night was the final rehearsal for the two plays, and the group of 40 or so patients, former patients, staff and professional actors taking part were all on hand for a last-minute briefing by producer-director Alec Lauber. Passing Through is written by a couple of former patients of Cherry Farm. It's a drama on how it feels to have a mental disability and be in an institution. It's already been presented at Cherry Farm and proved so powerful it was felt worthy of a public performance. In this scene, a situation not uncommon in psychiatric institutions, where conflict can start over such minor issues as the choice of taped music or steam radio.
You won't do that again.
Look, Gary, we have to work here and I don't
It's none of your bloody business. You earmuffs when you're doing the vacuum cleaning. How the hell do you think we cope with that noise? Drives us up the bloody wall. And then when we walk away for a bit of peace and quiet, you follow us all over the bloody villa with it.
One of the co-writers of the play has a leading role in Passing Through. He's been greatly encouraged by producer Alec Lauber, who after reading his and the co-author's poetry, encouraged them to produce plays and have them performed.
It was just real hard work. Vicky and I weren't too well, and it was just the encouragement from Alex Lauber that kept us going. But as the play developed and Vicky acted in the first production of it, that was really incredible to watch. It was a really big thrill for me to see that coming alive, your writing coming alive on the show. And now this time I'm acting in it myself is another experience, and it's just really new experiences every day.
Well, I think it's been a valuable experience for everybody. It's certainly an exciting piece of theatre from an audience's point of view. It's extended people's horizons, everyone's, the writers, the actors, the people who've come in the background, and I think that from that point of view it's certainly been a really good experience for everyone.
Otago will be seeking to stay at the top of the First Division Rugby Championship when it takes on Manawatu at Carisbrook tomorrow. The home team should be full of confidence after last week's 50-point win against Bay of Plenty, a match that produced a new young local star. Teenage winger John Timu ran in a record 4 tries. Ken Nicholson's talked to him and looked into his rugby background.
If the 1986 All Blacks were dubbed the Baby Blacks, this 1987 Under-19 team might well have earned the title the Nappy Blacks. But what a mighty side with names like Jason Goldsmith progressing this year into a fully fledged international.
As Goldsmith goes in virtually unopposed for New Zealand's 6th try.
But also in this side, along with Craig Innes, Simon Tremaine and others, was a young Hawke's Bay winger named John Timu.
Half break, he's got Timu there, times has passed well. Now has he got the speed? He has.
This year, John Timu is a student at the Otago Phys Ed School, and already with a big reputation behind him, he was slotted straight into the local rep squad. He's a product of the National Age Group Factory, but it didn't take him long to realise there was still a lot to learn.
Well, it was a big step into the First Division rugby, straight from schoolboys. Right at the start of the season, I was just nervous on and off the field with what I was doing. I was the new member of the team kind of thing, the new boy, as they say.
The pressures of the big time were immediately apparent, virtually from the first time Timu touched the ball in his debut game against Sydney. A mortifying moment for the youngster, but Timu was soon to get the benefit of a mature and close Otago squad.
Hockey is great. The more established players are great with new players that come into the team. They sort of help them along. And it's always good if you've got established players in the team that will help along new players.
And he finished the game off the right way. Timu's first international against Wales was for most a disappointing game, but by now the young winger was making progress.
Lays it nicely now for Strawn. Noel Pilcher was in. Here's Haggett. Brewer to Timu, and yes, John Timu.
An open team display against South Canterbury allowed Timu 2 more tries, and by now Timu was realising that Otago rugby wasn't the boring staid game he had heard all about in the North Island. He hadn't expected such enterprise.
No, honestly I didn't, but it was great to get the game like that. Forwards winning such ball as they did, getting their outsides running.
And on Saturday, he capped off that team attitude with a record bag of 4 tries. And if the team continues to play this brand of rugby, there will be a lot more from this talented 19-year-old.
He gets a second. And what a bath this is. Coming slowly now to Kenny. Got it away to Haggett. Out to Allison. Cooper. Timu. Number 3 for John Timu. Across to Timu, and he got it down, did he? Yes, he did. 4 tries today for John Timu.
John Timu, and we'll be hoping for lots more of those tries tomorrow. We leave you for the week with the Trust Bank Otago St Kilda Brass Band as it heads away to perform at Expo in Brisbane. And a quick look at the 3 o'clock temperatures today, predicting 11 degrees tomorrow for Invercargill, and for Dunedin, 11 degrees also. The high today of 11 was recorded in Kura. Have a great weekend, whatever you're doing. We'll be back same time Monday night. Good night.